for
it,
periods of months on end.
but it wasn't.
So it wasn't. And not only that,
God.
what caught my attention finally was when I looked down at the bottom of the page of the briefing document. Here I am in June of 1997, and at the bottom of the page it says September 1992. So I said, what is this all about here? You've finished your analysis some 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And why aren't you making this public? And they hemmed and hawed, and finally someone said, well, we were waiting for the Chernobyl findings to come in on thyroid cancers. And so what I did is that since I was working for the Secretary of Energy, I wrote a memorandum to the Secretary and basically urged that this document be released immediately, and that there was no need to sort of wait for people to drop dead from Chernobyl, that you could do some reasonable estimates, and I estimated at that time that the median estimate of thyroid cancers, there would be at least 75,000 excess thyroid cancers.
From where?
Yeah, and
from
my
where?
trouble,
From Chernobyl?
No, just from the fallout from the Nevada test site.
Yeah.
So it finally came out. The head of the National Cancer Institute had to admit before a congressional hearing that indeed they had suppressed the study. The people who had conducted the study had transferred over from the U.S. nuclear weapons program before that to do it, which gives you an idea of sort of the reach of this industry in our society here in the United States. And the principal investigator, of course, was demoted, and people left, and that was the end of that. But it indicated to me just what a fundamental conflict of interest we have with governments that have made such huge investments in nuclear technology, that they've created a system where the people who are responsible for putting people in harm's way are responsible for explaining why they did it and what might have happened, and that creates immediate conflicts of interest and corruption of science and medicine and all the things that are important to a healthy society.
I'm interviewing Bob Alvarez, who served as a senior policy advisor to the Secretary and Deputy Assistant Secretary for National Security and the Environment. So, Bob, okay, here's the next question. I'm a physician, and I guess in a certain sense, in my mind, I represent my colleagues and my profession. We're the ones that deal with people who walk in with a lump in their neck and we diagnose thyroid cancer, and we have to take it out and excise the whole thyroid and help the patients to die, and I've helped patients to die of thyroid cancer, and it's a hideous, horrible death. I remember one woman, aged 28, who was my patient when I was actually an intern, aged 23, at the Royal Adelaide Hospital, and she came in with thyroid cancer. It had disseminated to a degree in her body. She was a ballet dancer. And she gradually died as the secondaries got into her brain. She became incontinent of urine and feces and started to lose her equilibrium mentally and the like. And it was the most debilitating, horrific, painful death. And almost certainly we postulate that thyroid cancer was caused by radioactive iodine released from the British tests at Maralinga, north of Adelaide, and what happened was they blew up a huge bomb and the wind changed, and they didn't expect that to happen, and Adelaide was absolutely doused in radioactive fallout. So my question to you, Bob, is, and you may not be able to answer it, why is not the medical profession attacking this what can I say, revolting industry which is killing people?
Well, I think the practice of medicine, at least in the United States, has become so compartmentalized that if you even go to a radiologist who knows about radiation, they can't give you any straight answers about, well, what kind of dose might I receive
Yes,
if I
that's
take
true.
this procedure, and why aren't you recording this in my chart? Well,
Yeah.
they don't have to. I think medicine has become, as I said, so fragmented and so highly specialized that people sort of, when this happens, when you have this kind of specialization, I think what happens is that the knowledge of the bigger picture of what might be happening to the society as a whole and the role of physicians in dealing with that tends to get lost in the shuffle.
And no one takes responsibility. But
then we have to depend on people. And there's no problem. I have no problem with this. But we have to really depend more and more on doctors and professionals who look at large populations as if they were patients.
Mm.
And these are people that are commonly known as epidemiologists.
Mm.
And the problem is that our tools to measure a lot of these effects are not accurate enough and sharp enough to pick up a lot of things that we should. And the science itself, I mean, in the United States, until well into the 1990s, the U.S. nuclear weapons program had monopoly control over all radiation health effects research because they considered the loss of that control to be a threat to the national security of the United States.
Is that so? And did that influence the World Health Organization as well?
I don't know if it's influenced the World Health Organization, but it certainly influenced how the United States did its own research through the National Cancer Institute and elsewhere.
I had no idea about that.
So this is a form of corruption of science and medicine when you allow this to happen. But at the end of World War II, nuclear weapons were held with such awe and fear, and were considered so essential to preserving the national security or protecting the national security that things like revealing information that clearly indicated that you were putting workers in harm's way or the public in harm's way were considered national security threats.
Yeah.
Well, I recall.
Go on.
I recall in the 1980s, during the first Reagan administration, the general counsel, the chief lawyer of the Defense Department, sending a letter to Congress declaring that providing compensation to military personnel who may have been made ill from exposure to radiation during open-air testing was a threat to our national security.
Oh my God! Well, it's just
a mindset, and that washes over into the way doctors are educated and the scientific agendas in terms of public health are determined.
Yeah, I would disagree with that. I've just done grand rounds at a major Johns Hopkins hospital in St. Pete in Florida and at the General Hospital in Tampa. And certainly doctors don't have that attitude. But on the other hand, we are not taught in medical school about the effects of radiation and the isotopes produced in reactors and from bomb explosions and the like. In other words, we're pretty uneducated. But I will say right now, the American Medical Association has just released a paper saying that we must all be concerned about radiological accidents, and I guess that was stimulated by the Fukushima accident. It's really quite in-depth, and there's another paper that's just come out too about a 10-kiloton bomb dropping on a city and what that would mean medically speaking to people and how we could cope with that as a medical profession.
This is encouraging. I mean, this is encouraging, but I think this is an example of what it means to end the Cold War and for the status of nuclear weapons to steadily decline in this country. Is that we do have a more opening up and a broader understanding by people whose responsibility it is to is to keep us healthy and to protect our
it's a bit
our
late.
health.
It's a bit late, and when I look at the intricacies involved in the nuclear power program, which is backed by the weapons program still in America, as you've so aptly described today, Bob Alvarez, and in Japan, it takes my breath away, and I'm almost beyond trying to understand what these characters think they're up to. I think that what's happening in Japan is one of the greatest evils imposed upon an unsuspecting, innocent society who in the past has suffered from the effects of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's just almost beyond belief. And the fact that the media is totally not attending to it is something that must be taken on by all of us. You know, Bob, we've run out of time, and I'm terribly sorry. I've just been soliloquizing a bit, but you are a font of most extraordinary information, and the more you talk, the more fascinating it becomes because of your experience in the Department of Energy, which you once called the Department of Evil to me, actually.
Evil and entropy.
Evil and entropy, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Thank you so much, Bob. You're a national treasure, if not an international treasure.
Well, thank you.
Bye, Bob. My guest today on If You Love This Planet was Robert Alvarez, a senior scholar at the Institute for Policy Studies, where he is currently focused on nuclear disarmament, environmental and energy policies. Thanks for listening today. You can go to our website at ifyoulovethisplanet.org to hear more programs and also to contribute to our funding if you would like to do so, which would help us enormously to continue doing this very important work. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with you next week with another very interesting program. I can promise you that. Bye for now.